Alright. Hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It's not here once again. One thing I always love talking about and love reading about and even love thinking about is dream matches. Is pretty much these two people have never faced off one on one in the ring. And what if they faced off one on one in the ring? And so and so I have assembled here a list of 20 dream matches in total, 10 from others, and by others I mean very like popular ones that a lot of people talk about almost all the time, and then 10 that I came up with for the most part from my own, and um, and it's also worth noting that out of all the dream matches here, some of these almost happened, if you can believe it, and we'll obviously talk about those. But B, some of these in a way, if the cards were to fall in the right place, could still theoretically happen. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So these first 10 dream matches are dream matches that other people have had or that are very well talked about. I guess I should say is dream matches that are very well talked about. The first is Brock Lesnar versus Batista. That's right. Brock Lesnar and Batista have never faced off one on one, um, and that is pretty surprising, but not too surprising considering by the time Brock Lesnar had left WWE in 2004, or obviously he left to try to pursue a career in the NFL. That didn't really work out. By the time he left, Batista was still firmly in evolution. He wouldn't really rise up into the main event scene until the next year, or when he won the Royal Rumble and challenged Triple H for the world title. So these two never faced off. The only other time that this could have happened was 2014, but Brock was doing his own thing. Batista, they definitely won their for the Evolution storyline, and I guess perhaps also for a potential world title feud. In fact, he did kind of have it, but it also got overshadowed by the Yes Movement because the fans had enough of Daniel Bryan not being pushed, so they essentially pushed him into the main event scene. But yeah, so Batista was essentially brought back for that, and then obviously he had a brief spell in 2019, feuding with Triple H, and between fulfilling that dream match of Brock Lesnar versus Batista or having another Batista Triple H match at WrestleMania 35, yeah, I think they chose wrong on that one. But nevertheless, it's Brock Lesnar still. Well, he might not still be around. Looked like his match against Cody at SummerSlam might have been his last match, and meanwhile Batista, he's firmly shipping over to Hollywood and everything, which he's doing a fantastic job at. So, unfortunately, this may be a match that might not happen, but we can dream, which is kind of why we're here. These are dream matches, of course. The next one is Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle, and sadly, this one is like kind of a ships in the night kind of scenario. Kurt Angle didn't come to WWE until 1999. I mean, after being in the Olympics and everything, and he wouldn't really, and it was before then that before his jump to WWE, he hadn't really honed that sports entertainment craft, if you will, but he would hone it later years and everything. And meanwhile, Bret Hart, of course, the excellence of execution was in WCW at this time, and it didn't always turn out the best. But yeah, so Bret Hart was in WCW. Well, unfortunately, Bret Hart, especially after his concussion and everything, he had Starrcade '99 at the hands of Goldberg, which I know wasn't really on purpose, but yeah. So after that, Bret Hart stepped away from wrestling and everything. And so sadly, this match also never happened, but this would have been a really solid match as well. Pretty much two like the best technicians and going at it. Yes, please sign me up. Uh, the next match that we have on here is The Miz versus MJF, and honestly, and I'm sure a lot of the people who suggest this match feel kind of the same way. Honestly, because as the thing is, the reason why I chose these matches because as these may be the dream matches that a lot of people talk about, but these are my personal dream matches as well. But honestly, the Miz and MJF, they don't even need to have a match. Just a promo interaction between the two would be something to see. Just a promo battle. Like they could have the match, and the match I'm sure would be fine. But honestly, just a promo battle between these two would do, and I think that's people's main consensus with the Miz and MJF. If, two guys with a lot of charisma, definitely know how to work the mic, definitely know how to work the crowd and everything. But yeah, just a promo battle between these two, I think would suffice. If we got a match out of it, cool. But otherwise, yeah, just a promo battle, I think would be fine enough for that one. Then next up is Shawn Michaels versus Eddie Guerrero. This one was supposed to happen, and I mentioned some of these matches were supposed to happen, and this was one of them. So this one was originally penciled in for WrestleMania 22, which this is definitely a WrestleMania caliber match. Two men with a lot of talent, and two men who beat their addictions and who beat their addictions and came back better than ever. But unfortunately, this did not happen as Eddie Guerrero would end up passing away in November of 2005. So sadly, we never got this match. But it definitely would have been a fantastic match if this had gone through. And instead, Shawn Michaels battled Mr. McMahon at WrestleMania 22. But man, this match would have been awesome to see. Then next up is Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley. Now, this may be feasible now that Jade Cargill is in WWE. Some of these do have some WWE AEW interminglings as well, but really there's a lot of like company versus company interminglings as well here. But Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley, two big powerhouses going at it, and I imagine this probably will be the plan. And after a while, Jade Cargill, who I don't think has made her TV debut yet, but but they already have some creative plans for her, and I imagine, and most likely this match is definitely in the cards at some point. I mean, is Cargill and Rhea Ripley, and if that's the case, I definitely love to see this match. Love to see how this match plays out. I think you could even get like a lot of mileage out of it, make a full blown feud out of it. Some matches can just be matches. Other matches can be full on feuds, and I think this would make an interesting full on feud. Jade Cargill has at least alluded to wanting to face Rhea Ripley. He said, he alluding to it on Twitter that she's heard about the Judgment Day and everything. So I guess this means that Cargill versus Ripley is indeed on the table. But next up, this is a big one, and this is another one that almost happened. Is Jon Moxley versus Mick Foley? So back in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, and they began building a feud between Jon Moxley and Mick Foley. Jon Moxley, who was Dean Ambrose at the time, had a confrontation. It was supposed to be staged, but apparently Ambrose did go off script a couple times. But pretty much Ambrose calling out Foley for turning an entire generation into hardcore wrestlers, himself included. So this was supposed to lead to a match, but unfortunately Mick Foley wasn't medically cleared, so it kind of fell through. But still a match of that magnitude, especially now that Dean Ambrose is John Moxley again and is no longer holding back, I think definitely would have been. It definitely would have been. It wouldn't have been a pretty match. It wouldn't have been a technical masterpiece or anything like that. But it definitely would have been a violent, bloody affair. And sometimes that's just as good. This next one is another big one, and another one that almost happened is Roman Reigns versus The Rock. The one that a lot of people were buzzing about after The Rock made his return to WWE. This really a match that. A match that's been talked about for a while, and a match that, as The Rock revealed, was penciled in for WrestleMania 39. And it didn't really go through, but this is definitely still a dream match. These two cousins fighting essentially over the bloodline and over their views of the bloodline and family and everything. And Roman Reigns means wishing to be the ultimate leader of the bloodline. The Rock wishing to save the bloodline from the tyrannical Roman Reigns, at least in theory. Hopefully that's how you'd have the feud pull out, So, will this match happen? We'll see. A lot of people are expecting this match to happen at WrestleMania 40. Whether or not that'll happen, time will tell. But for now, this is for now, this is still just a dream match. This next one is not just a dream match for us, the people, but for a dream match for both these competitors. That is brother versus brother, Jay versus Jimmy Uso. They've talked about wanting to have a match at WrestleMania, having their brother versus brother match, and it does seem like that might be the direction they're going, with Jimmy turning on Jay, and now they're being on separate brands. If not WrestleMania, then probably Survivor Series, because that's usually where brand warfare happens, unless they're also going to go the War Games, foregoing the brand's route like they did last year, which if they do, that would be really, really cool. But yeah, so Jay versus Jimmy. He, admittedly, I'm sure it's been in the back of a lot of people's minds, but especially now with the Bloodline storyline and everything, having a Jay versus Jimmy match would be really cool. Not the next match, which is another one that had, at least to the belief, he would be wanted from the people involved, is the New Day versus the Elite. Now, obviously, you'd want Big E to be healthy and everything going into this match. Which, man, I miss Big E. I definitely miss Big E on my TV screen. But the New Day, that being, of course, Kofi, Big E, and Xavier Woods, and the Elite being Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. They've definitely interacted, and it's even crazier that WWE hyped up their interaction and on Twitch and everything, and as they gamed against each other. I forget exactly. I think it was for Street Fighter. I forget exactly what it was for, but the Elite said they wanted to face the New Day. They pretty much did what they did with FTR, saying they will face the New Day one day and the people will be happy. And this would definitely be a fantastic match. To see between these two sides. Is a major faction within WWE in the New Day versus a major faction in everywhere else aside from WWE in the Elite. So the New Day versus the Elite would definitely be a really cool match. And then this last one that a lot of people talked about, before I get into my own personal ones, is probably the dream match, the ultimate dream match. You already know which one it is: The Undertaker versus Sting. Now, yes, I know. It's been talked about before, and I believe I even mentioned it on the channel before. Technically, this match has already happened, and Sting battled Mean Mark Callis. But it was Surfer Sting, and it was Mean Mark Callis. It wasn't The Undertaker just yet. But The Undertaker persona versus the Sting persona is what people, and by Sting I mean the Crow persona and everything, has been a dream match that people have wanted for years. And just like a few of the other matches we mentioned, it's a dream match that almost happened. back in 2011 in the Visionettes. That's leading into Triple H versus The Undertaker were originally going to be meant for Sting, but Sting unfortunately ended up re-signing with TNA at the time. And his reward was Victory Road 2011, among other things. Sad, but yeah, that would have been like if we had gotten that in 2011, where at the point where Undertaker could, whew, excuse me, but if we had gotten that at that point, at a point where Undertakers could still, for the most part, go, versus Sting, who could still go. Sting can even still go to this day, which is crazy. But if we had gotten that to the point where both these men could really still go, that would have been a fantastic match. Sadly, it didn't really pan out that way. But that's what Dream Matches are for dreams and everything. So now we get into 10 of my personal favorite dream matches. Dream matches I came up with. Some of these have been kind of brought up by other people, but I really would love to see them. The first is Bryan Danielson versus Ilya Dragunov. This would be definitely it would be to an extent a technical masterpiece, but this would also be a hard-hitting battle, and that's exactly what I wanted. Yes, please, like these two just beating the hell out of each other would be really awesome to see. Especially with Dragunov, a lot of intensity and everything. Daniel Bryan / Bryan Danielson, and a lot of hard strikes. So this would definitely be an incredible match. If WWE and AEW ever did a crossover, I don't know if it will happen, but if they ever did a crossover, I would definitely love to see this match unfold. Next up is Sami Zayn versus Johnny Gargano, two of the heart and souls of NXT at different points in time. Sami Zayn was kind of the heart and soul of like the rebirth or then the relaunch of NXT. As NXT no longer a game show, but now a full-fledged developmental brand within WWE. Meanwhile, Johnny Gargano was the heart and soul during the third brand era, aka arguably the best version of NXT. Sami Zayn's version of NXT was also really solid for the most part, but Johnny Gargano especially, and these two facing off against each other, we almost would kind of get something similar with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus DIY, but Sami Zayn and Johnny Gargano also would be a really solid match. Both men definitely would excite and ignite the crowd. But don't worry, we have other plans for Tommaso Ciampa later on down the list. Sorry for the spoiler. But next up is Goldberg versus Braun Breaker, or big meaty men smacking meat. And not quite in that territory yet. We will see it later on in this list. Sorry for the other spoiler, but these are two big men and a lot of raw power and intensity from both these guys. As I think this would be a pretty solid match, and their styles definitely would complement each other, strength on strength, and just an absolute war of attrition between the two. Goldberg, of course, known for his intensity, but so is Braun Breaker. So this would definitely be an interesting contest in that regard. Then next up is Randy Orton versus Tommaso Ciampa. Honestly, the match between these two would also be fine, but similar to like the Miz and MJF, this one would be also a very good like promo battle between the two. But definitely also a battle of wits. It's both men being clever in their hair battle and everything. And Tommaso Ciampa, also shouts to Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, DIY reunited. You wouldn't have known because the USA Network cut it off at the last moment. But also, Tommaso Ciampa wrestled a hell of an Intercontinental Championship match against Gunther last night on Raw. But both these men I think would have a solid match between the two. But seeing like the feud between the two, seeing in kind of the battle of wits between the two, I think would also be really really cool. Then next up is Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. And I had been thinking about this match because someone on Twitter had brought up how these two had never faced off against each other. And another kind of ships in the night moment. And by the time AJ Styles had got to WWE, Cody Rhodes was Stardust, and you could tell he probably wasn't much longer for WWE. But now that Cody Rhodes is back, and now that he is the American Nightmare, will we actually see? Will we actually see him face off against AJ Styles? I personally would love to, and I'd love if they built this up for Survivor Series. He's in about a month from now, kind of first time ever, Raw versus SmackDown, Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. I think you would definitely get quite a bit of mileage out of it. Cody Rhodes seemed like he may transition to his feud with Drew McIntyre, but having these two face off for the first time, I think would be a really solid match, and the people would definitely appreciate it. Then next up is Rey Mysterio versus Rey Fenix. I promise it's not because both their names start with Rey, but it's because this would definitely be a high flyer's dream. Rey Mysterio, not quite as agile as he used to be, but still very agile in a lot of regards. Rey Fenix, of course, is very agile as well in his own regard. Or like the amount of flips and spots and stuff in his match. It's like, hey, if you don't like a lot of flips and stuff, because not everybody does, and that's fine. But if you don't like a lot of like flips or high flying moves and stuff, this probably isn't the match for you. But someone like me who loves it, yes please, let's do it. But then next up is Braun Strowman versus Bronson Reed. Here's your big meaty men smacking meat match. Two very big men, two very strong men, and also two surprisingly agile men. Especially Bronson Reed being able to hit moves from the top rope is always really cool. But I would love to see these match like these two just beat the crap out of each other, or just an absolute battle. Yes, go at it. Bring the meat together. Her big meaty men smacking meat. Let's do it. It'd be really awesome in that regard. But then next up here is Mandy Rose versus Tiffany Stratton, and mostly because their gimmicks are kind of similar, or them being often about like looks and everything. I don't know if this one will happen because Mandy Rose is not in WWE and she's making a lot of money and everything through her other ventures, which hey, I'm not mad at, but yeah. So this I think would be a really solid match, or even just an interesting feud between the two, and it's something that perhaps could have happened. In fact, let me see if it did happen. I think by the time Tiffany Stratton got going in NXT, Mandy Rose was gone, or might have been in, Toxic Attraction. Man, I could not think of the name of it. It doesn't look like they faced off, or no, so it doesn't look like they faced off. So I think just like an interesting feud between the two, especially with their gimmick kind of being similar and everything. But next up is I'm sure something that's crossed the mind of people at some point, and that is D-Generation X versus the NWO. Well, pretty similar gimmicks. In fact, some of the members of DX were part of the NWO, and vice versa. But pretty much the ideal of like essentially taking over their respective companies. He's being rebellious, being very anti-establishment, taking over their entire companies. Whereas the NWO's name is more taking over taking over the establishment, being anti-establishment to form the new establishment, versus D-Generation X being more rebelling against that and pushing the envelope and everything. So I think it'd be an interesting feud in that regard. Right, as to what members would face who I'd probably get the whole DX Army involved. All of that being Triple H, Shawn Michaels, X-Pac, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, and Chyna. First, the NWO, I'd probably have Hollywood Hogan, Nash, Scott Hall, and then you could probably mix and match the other two members, or the other three members, and you need a female in there. So you can mix and match from there, but just more so the feud between the two, I think, would be interesting. And this last one I have here is a big one, and it's something that I'm sure a lot of other people have thought about as well at some point. And it's kind of going against the rules I established, at least in the back of my mind, but I'm going to make an exception. I have John Cena versus Kenny Omega. I wanted to kind of keep it like one match per superstar, but you know what? For Kenny Omega, I'll make an exception, or slash wrestler. One match per wrestler, but for Kenny Omega, I'll make an exception. And because this would be definitely a major feud. They could definitely milk the crap out of this feud. That being the biggest star in WWE versus the biggest star to never be in WWE, in Kenny Omega, building it essentially around that kind of premise. It could draw some parallels between this feud and then John Cena's feud against CM Punk. But interesting in that regard. Heard John Cena and Kenny Omega going after each other. Pretty much WWE versus not WWE. He framed into a feud, and I think they would also still put on a good match against each other. A pretty solid match, but it'd definitely be more about the feud, and sometimes that's okay. But nevertheless, that's going to do it for this little discussion video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you can see as soon as it drops. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on any of these dream matches and what's your personal favorite dream match. And also, because the month of October, we're going to be doing a lot of Halloween related stuff, including Halloween movies and some Halloween Havoc matches, is both WCW and NXT. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.